This is that valve stem on the John Deere 50. What the inner tubes come with are these little plastic, well, let's keep the camera up there, threads on there to keep your stem in place before you air it up and everything that way, and if it ever goes flat, to keep it there. Well, I picked up some brass ones, but the only problem is they've changed the stems now. And you can see the gap up here, which doesn't really matter, it's doing its job, but I don't care for the looks of it. Originally these would screw down tight to your rim on the old valve or old inner tubes. And so what I'm going to do now is make a couple out of a piece of brass, and even to be different, I might single point knurl it. But I think I may do the diamond knurl on it and just make it maybe back out here a little. Oh, double the thickness probably, because as I saw before there, that's, you know, 1.5 times would about do it. I'm going to make it so it stands out a little farther, and I may even do something different, make a taper on the end of it, or make it look entirely different. We'll get set up and I got a chunk of brass stuck in here for making those little nuts for the inner tube on the tractor. Screw the end up a little. See where we want. Bore them out, should be good. I'm ready to center drill it. The problem is the thread on this piece is actually, well, it's close to a metric thread, but it's not really metric either. As near as I can tell, it's about a half 26. It's 26 threads per inch. And I took a piece from from an old inner tube and was checking it out, and measurement wise in my machinery handbook I couldn't actually find anything that was close to it. 7/16 26 is oddball tap that they do make, and I've got to do some checking. My smallest threading bar for this lathe, I can't go down in a 1/2 inch hole. I can go about 5/8, but so I may just get a smaller, while I might grind a high-speed steel for doing brass, and I can thread it that way. But otherwise I may look and see if I can find a tap, because it's kind of an oddball. I don't know if the inner tube makers decided that themselves or what the deal is. So anyway, I'll get it bored out and everything, and figure it out later, I guess. I bumped the camera. It's a little bit too sharp for brass. But quite often on brass you want to knock the corners off a little bit, the edges, just so it doesn't grab like that. You can see where it almost pulled the bit right into it. That's why I probably shouldn't have drilled a pilot hole. I should have just went ahead and, as sharp as my other bit is, just went ahead and drilled it. Of course, I have it, I grabbed the smaller one. To do this is, once I get this drilled to my thread size, this first one, I can take a mill bit and I'll make my recess. Do the recess for this back side up to my thread point, and then after I thread it, I'll thread to the bottom of the hole. Then I can cut it off and I'll put it in the south bend and finish off this outer edge. Once I either get a smaller threading tool or make one out of a piece of high-speed steel or get a tap. I'd rather have the smaller threading tool. I do have one I could put in one of the tool holders that I use in the other lathe. Or I could have set it up in the south bend and threaded it with that one too. Might do yet too. I guess we'll all have to wait and see once inside. Yeah. Okay, this is one of the bits we use in the hand drills and everything. Drill through a little bit of everything. It isn't quite as sharp. That other bit was fresh ground edge on it. This is much better. It's pretty bad when you got to go through and look for a dull bit in order to do something instead of a sharp one. what does it say? Normally it wouldn't have center drilled the spot. Just went right through this is basically a 7/16 bit. I think it's a little under that. Might be 27/64. The original one is, you got 125 thousandths, so an 1/8 inch deep recess if I get down in the camera there. And so I've set my carriage stop. I've got a boring bit in here. Instead of using the mill bit like I was going to, I figured I can bore it out. I've got a small enough bit for this lathe. I'm going to take it to, basically 375, 3/8 deep. That'll give me that extra almost a 1/4 inch that I need. Be good to try for the first one at least. This 5/8 is what the other ones at. Even the plastic ones are about that size. According to that, I've got another 50 thousandths to touch off. Almost 5 thousandths more, probably close enough here. Right here I'm at 350, so according to that, I need another 25, which I'll just add in my stop. I'm only actually 355. If I make them all that size, good enough for who it's for. Thanks for watching. these are the bolts from that sorghum press. I think by the way the heads look on these were probably original. These other ones, this one's got a lot smaller head. And that one's a lot bigger. And I ended up using them in the press this year just because I didn't get time to make the new ones. I thought they were standard size. And here it turns out they're an 11/16 11 basically. But when I got checking them out, they're actual threads. You know, these are old enough, they're wore some and everything that way, but by size of it, actual 11/16 standard thread was not great. And by measuring them using the 3-wire method on here and measuring it a few other ways, I got my machinery handbook out, and I don't know if that's going to show up, but yeah, you can wait. They're actually British Standard or Whitworth thread, and all my measurements come out almost exact to this 11/16 thread, which the little asterisk on there is saying sizes marked are not recommended for general use, so even makes it more of an oddball. But I thought maybe they were wore down and everything that way. I ended up, well, this one's definitely rusted away, but ended up checking all of them and did go to Fastenal and picked up a 11/16 nut, piece of all thread, and the nuts do not thread on there, and they're bigger than 5/8, but they're smaller than 11/16 standard US thread. And so what we're going to do is turn them to what these are and use their old nuts, since that's what it originally had. I've got a piece of, well, the head is about 3/4 square. I've got a piece of 3/4 inch square cold rolled that I'm going to throw her in the lathe and turn her down and match these old threads so they fit the nuts. I don't think I'll bother. They're actually, on your Whitworth threads, they use a rounded crest and groove to the thread. I'll probably just leave it at a normal 60 degree and it'll work fine, and all they do is adjust where the drum sets, how close together on that press, so, and the cane mill there. We'll get some made, and I decided I'm going to make all 4 of them because these look bad enough and everything that way, and as long as I've got some time finally, or I don't really have time, but I'm going to take time to do these.